diagnosed with cancer. He wishes to remain anonymous, but he's a really fine fellow, one of the ministers here in Lincoln County, and I would appreciate your prayers for him.
Please stand. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Troop 83. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner Carpenter. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, the agenda is approved. Now we will move to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Patton. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, the consent agenda is approved. All right, we'll go to item number 3, public hearing, proposed private road, White Dove Lane. Ms. Susan Sain.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
We are here this evening to caress the name of a road. This road is in the Northbrook Township. It is off of 27 West. It's adjacent to Cedar Ridge Lane. It meets all the requirements. I road private drive as White Dove Lane.
Okay, I will open the public hearing for White Dove Lane. Anyone in the room want to speak? All right, having no one signed up, I will close the public hearing for White Dove Lane. And I'll entertain a motion to adopt an ordinance officially naming the existing private drive as White Dove Lane.
So moved, sir.
All right, motion by Commissioner Cecina. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, it is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're moving to the zoning public hearings. Jeremiah. And while they're coming up here, I will let everyone know that the planning board will deliberate these cases, and then they'll come back before us with their recommendation on the 16th at our morning meeting.
All right, good evening, Commissioners, Planning Board. Would the County Attorney like to provide some procedural guidance?
Absolutely. So tonight we will be hearing both quasi-judicial and legislative zoning cases. So to better explain those for the public, a legislative hearing is a forum for expressing public opinion about a project. There are no statutory restrictions on who can speak in those matters. However, redundant or repetitive testimony could be ruled out of order. So what we would request is that if you are part of a group or you and your neighbors have substantially similar interests, please designate someone to speak on your group's behalf. Those groups do get 5 minutes. Individual speakers get 3. We understand that a lot of the concerns are going to come about traffic. We, myself and the board, hear this every month. There is not much we can do about traffic at the county level. We do not do roads. Lincoln County does not have the ability to do roads. Those are INSO DOT guidelines that have to be met, and they build roads, require road improvements. The county has some abilities to do that, but other than that, there is not much that can be done about that. So the next type of cases are quasi-judicial cases. There are two before us tonight. SUP 529, which is Raw Raw Family Holdings LLC, and SUP 530, Vogue Towers. So all the other cases are legislative. So the difference in a quasi-judicial and a legislative case is that for quasi-judicial, anyone wishing to speak must have what's considered standing under law. If you received a letter from the Planning and Zoning Department, then you are considered to have standing on those legislative or those quasi-judicial cases. If you did not, please notify the chair when you approach the podium, and we can look at whether or not you have standing. So anyone wishing to speak must have standing. Any testimony in a quasi-judicial case cannot be lay witness testimony. It must be considered evidence under the North Carolina Rules of Evidence. For example, the statute specifically states that any lay opinions relating to how the use of property in a particular way would affect the value of other property, that cannot be considered if it is lay witness testimony. Also, how traffic or increasing in traffic would pose a danger to the public. That has to be given as expert testimony and cannot be considered as lay witness testimony. So if there are any questions about standing for quasi-judicial cases, please do not hesitate to ask when you're called to the podium. So next, I will need to confirm conflicts of interest with both boards. So I need to confirm that no board members have a conflict of interest in regards to the cases before us tonight. No member shall participate in or vote in a manner that would violate the applicant's constitutional rights to an impartial decision maker. Those impermissible violations of due process include a member having a fixed opinion prior to hearing the matter that is not susceptible to change, a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with the applicant, or a financial interest in the outcome of the matter. Also, for the Board of Commissioners, any member who has had undisclosed ex parte communications prior to the hearings tonight. Does any board member on either board have a conflict?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jeremiah, we'll start with ZMA 772, Greg Smith.
Thank you, Chair. These first two cases, ZMA 772 and ZMA 773, the public hearings were originally scheduled for February, but due to inclement weather, they got postponed to this evening. They were re-advertised. Letters were sent again to the adjoining property owners, re-advertised in the newspaper. And so we've got the advertised public hearing for these tonight. The first case, ZMA 772, Greg Smith is the applicant, and he is requesting the rezoning of a 0.58 acre parcel from transitional residential to neighborhood business. That subject property is located at 128 Killian Farm Road, about 200 feet south of Highway 73 on the west side of Killian Farm Road, and that's in the Catawba Springs Township. This property is also located in the Eastern Lincoln Development District overlay, and the adjoining parcels are zoned neighborhood business and transitional residential. There's a mixture of land uses in this area, including businesses, homes, and agricultural uses. This property is located within an area that's designated by the Lincoln County Land Use Plan as single-family neighborhood, suitable for single-family homes at densities up to 2 units per acre. Just some additional information. This parcel is located in a protected area of a water supply watershed, so that has some implications for impervious coverage for any type of non-residential development. You have included in your packet the the permissible uses under the current zoning district as well as the proposed zoning district, and you have applicant's proposed statement of consistency and reasonableness. We are recommending approval of this request, albeit we are acknowledging that this request is not consistent with the land use plan. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Anyone have any questions for Jeremiah? Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Greg Smith. Oh, Jesus. The echo. I live at 7456 Tallwood Drive, Denver, North Carolina, 28037. Your speakers are going to hate this tonight. I'm here tonight to request your support of the conversion of the 128 Killian Road. Jeremiah, are they going to put the chart up?
I believe the applicant may have submitted a presentation in advance of the meeting. Does the IT staff have access to that?
If you get any trouble, I'll just read it.
All right, go ahead, Greg. It doesn't look like they have anything.
It's okay. I'll just work around it. Basically, this property was up for sale, and there was very little interest in it from a residential perspective. All the businesses were interested in it for a conversion, and so it had been on the market for a extended period of time. It basically is single-family neighborhood, but it's adjoining to the bicycle shop on the left. Across the street is really commercial businesses. On the right, it's a street. There's only a residence behind it. So that's the configuration that you can kind of understand. The traffic's a significant detractor, right, from a residential perspective. There we go. Yeah, that gives you a good picture of what it looks like. So it was on market for 52 days, multiple offers for business use exclusively. It had lack of residential demand for supporting rezoning. The LLD ensures use aligns with the county. And so the intent I'm trying to do is convert it to neighborhood business, which has demand for these types of spaces. It's a good location for a small business, types of businesses that are like office-based. The intent here is once we did the conversion, we would put it up, try to find a business that aligns to it. If it turned out, and I'm not indicating that it will, but if it turned out the requirement required a conditional approval, I would just come back for the conditional approval if it was something unique. Hopefully it just fits naturally under the general neighborhood business. We are going to have to comply with all county requirements, all DOT requirements. So expanding the front driveway entrance would be an example I'm expecting to have to do to widen it for entrance access. It's really from an overall point I was trying to make at a conclusion for you, is that the local area needs small business spaces. There is quite a bit of demand all the time for small businesses with good visibility locations. So that it fits much better for this type of property as it's evolved in that area. Obviously, a tax base grows and things like that. And I respectfully request your approval. Are there any questions for me?
Anyone have any?
I can understand that.
Anything we can do with?
It was terrible to say it, so I know it had to be bad elsewhere.
Just turn around and Take a recess
Okay, yeah.
and
So
fix the sound.
Are you guys okay with me saying it again, just real quickly summarizing?
Yeah,
or-
go ahead. We're gonna figure out what's going on here.
Okay, good.
And so,
I'll buy you time. So the property, put the map back, yeah, the map's up. So if you look there, this property, for the most part, is surrounded by commercial properties. It's actually a 1,700 square foot house. Bedroom. From a personal perspective, light traffic all the time, meaning lights. Lights are coming into the house constantly because of the location on the corner of Really a terrible spot, right? You wouldn't want your kids playing around that area because of the high traffic. It's just not conducive for residential properties. And all the market conditions said the same thing. The interest by the businesses that were approaching making offers were all businesses. I ended up being the accepted offer, and the plan. Low traffic type of business, like accounting, things like that. Those are the categories it falls into, and there's a lot of people looking for space for that type of business. It's hard to come by in Denver, right? And it's particularly when they're new. And it's demand on a spot where it's got visibility like that location. So that's what made it of interest to me to pursue. So the tax base for the county, it's going to provide a resident, a location, right, that's more conducive for the user of that property than a residential. And so what I'm really asking for is the conversion of that, and automatically everything we do has to be in full compliance with county code. Not allowed to do, obviously, I've got to change all the changes that are required by the DOT. I've got to make the appropriate adjustments on the requirements are asked for by code for the conversion to commercial. So there's really very minimal impact. The only residence abutting it is behind it, and it's got a pretty good distance between that. And ultimately, there'll be a buffer between them. Okay? Any questions?
does anyone have any questions for Greg? I will now open the public comments for this section. We have one person signed up to speak, Jason Hanna.
Hello, I'm Jason Hanna. Leave the map up, if you will. I live at 146 Killian Farm Road, which is right on the other side of the Little Street Ott Circle. I've lived there for 30 years. I hate it for you, Greg, but I'm opposed to you putting a business right there. We have a little neighborhood there. I know I speak for everybody that lives down Killian Farm Road, 158, 167, all these folks. None of us want another business at the end of our road. We have enough of it, as you can see, already. The traffic, I know we ain't supposed to talk about traffic, but that's an issue. I mean, we can't get out of our road to save our life. It's ridiculous. And to add another business in there, I don't understand why we need it. I don't understand how it fits in a neighborhood. My other concern is, yes, it's a little house right now. We change it to business. Greg could sell it. Greg could decide to do whatever he wants to do with it. Next thing you know, it could be a big building of it. We don't want that right there next to us. I'm sure Mr. Smith wouldn't like a business right next to his house, wherever he lives. Most people don't, and I'm one of those people that don't. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
Having no one else signed up to speak on this matter, I will close the public comments, and we will move to ZMA 773.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, I think we're going to test relocating that microphone temporarily over there to see if we can change some of that directional system so the echo will not be as pronounced. We're going to get IT over here to do a testing real quick. You going to test it, Jeremiah? We're hoping this may remedy some of this.
All right, let's try this. Is that any better?
That better? Okay, we'll move the podium over there then.
right, Mr. Chair, are you ready to proceed?
Sir.
All right, the next case, zoning map amendment number 773. This is Cole Reynolds is the applicant in this case, and this is a request to rezone 3.28 acres from residential single family to residential suburban. This property is located on the west side of Shoal Road, about 200 feet north of West Winds Road in Howards Creek Township. One of the parcels here already has a two-family home, a duplex, located on it. That's a grandfathered use on that parcel. The other two are vacant. And so the applicant has indicated his desire to potentially build a duplex on each of those two vacant parcels. And so as part of this request, this would also bring that third parcel into conformity with the current zoning standards by placing it in a district that does permit a duplex on that parcel. So it would no longer be grandfathered. We spoke to the location of the property. With regards to the land use plan for this area, it designates this area as suburban commercial center. You've got the library on the opposite side of the road there. You've got obviously some other business uses and civic uses with the schools in the area. And so the forward-looking land use plan had designated a large area here relative to this area, a large area for suburban commercial center. That has not materialized. And so the planning staff does acknowledge that this request would not be consistent with what the land use plan calls for, but we are recommending approval of this request, and you have our proposed statement of consistency and reasonableness in your packet. You also have in your packet the allowed uses under the current zoning district as well as the proposed zoning district. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Does anyone on the planning board or commissioner have any questions for Jeremiah? Okay, is the applicant here? You have anything you'd like to add? All right. I will open the public hearing for ZMA 773, Cole Reynolds. Only having the applicant signed up to speak, he just spoke, I will close the public hearing at this time. All right, Jeremiah, we'll move to the next one. PD 2018-2-A, Piedmont Natural Gas.
The applicant in this case is requesting to amend a plan development industrial master plan that was approved in June of 2018. This is for the Duke Power combustion turbine site off of Old Plank Road. This proposed amendment to the master plan includes the addition of 5 new buildings for the operation and maintenance of new equipment for an existing regional gas distribution system. It also includes a pad for a future electrical substation site, and the applicant may speak more to that as far as the design that's shown on the proposed plan. The applicant has provided a summary of a community involvement meeting that was held on January 27th, and they've also included their proposed plan, and I'm sure as part of their presentation, they'll get into some of the details about these proposed buildings. The 637-acre site is located at 6760 Old Plank Road in the Catawba Springs Township. It's adjoined by property zoned industrial general, transitional residential, and planned development residential, with that planned development residential being the Trilogy at Lake Norman residential subdivision. Land uses in this area include a mixture of industrial, residential, and civic uses. The planning staff is recommending approval of this request. You have our proposed statement of consistency and reasonableness in your packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeremiah?
I do, sir. So with all the emails that I've received about this, the biggest concern seems to be noise and turbines. So I'm hoping that Duke can explain, Piedmont Natural Gas, whomever, can explain the noise issues or the potential noise issues so that we can alleviate some fears of the folks over in Trilogy as to whether there's going to be actually more turbines and actually more noise in this. And I can certainly understand their concern over more noise because there's some of the folks are already pretty unhappy about the turbines that are there now. So that, I'd really be interested in hearing what they have to say about that.
Yeah, so that was a topic of conversation at the community involvement meeting. Certainly, the applicant answered those questions then, and I'm sure they'll be prepared to answer those here tonight. But my understanding is that none of these new facilities would have any effect on the combustion turbine operations that are already ongoing on the site right now, that were already permitted, and that this would not increase the noise from those combustion turbines. But again, I'll certainly let the applicant provide any additional detail.
And the other question I have, Jeremiah, is for light pollution. Are we going to limit the light pollution in that area so lights are not shining in people's homes? That's always a concern when we have industrial that's that close to a residential area, and how, I'd like to know how they're going to eliminate that idea as well, please.
So this project, just like any non-residential project, would be subject to the lighting standards in Article 3 of the Unified Development Ordinance. And so there are some standards there with regards to light pollution at the property line and those intense beams of light affecting the surrounding property.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank
Yes.
you, Jeremiah.
Any additional questions for Jeremiah? Is the applicant here?
If you get much further back, you'll be in the other room.
Good evening. My name is Adam Pollock. I'm a project manager with Piedmont Natural Gas. Like Jeremiah introduced the project, we are proposing 5 new buildings on the Lincoln CT property. This facility is going at the southeast corner of Duke's property. This is sited along an existing natural gas pipeline and is kind of bounded by the quarry, Killian Creek, and some existing overhead transmission lines. So we are at the far southeast corner on Duke's existing property. We conducted the community involvement meeting in late January and did not submit any supplemental application information other than what was in our initial application and the materials proposed as part of that CIM minutes. Like Jeremiah mentioned, this facility is to serve Piedmont's existing pipeline system, and we will not be directly connected to or impact the operations of Duke's existing power plant. We are on Duke's parcel from a convenience of utility standpoint along that existing pipeline, but we are not serving the Duke power plant. All of our construction will be on Duke's parcel using existing access road and getting infrastructure for utilities from the Duke parcel. But we are not going to be increasing or decreasing or changing the operation of that facility. It's just going to be co-located on that parcel. Any questions other than what was proposed in the application?
I was told, it was before my time on the board, that when the CT plant was put in, a specific color was requested to kind of blend in with the surrounding area so the neighbors wouldn't, be seeing blue metal and things of that nature. Is that something you guys could consider doing with the buildings?
So we have not yet begun the building permit process. We certainly can have those conversations. I'm not sure we had advanced the design far enough on exterior colors to have a final determination on that. I will note the location of our facility and the existing topography will mean that this facility is not seen from either Old Plank Road or some of the surrounding areas. It is kind of tucked in the corner and across the overhead utilities, the overhead right-of-way from Duke. And so the existing recent Unit 17 project that Duke constructed a few years ago is physically taller than the new infrastructure that Piedmont is proposing.
Okay, thank you.
And I know that Jeremiah spoke, but can you speak to the noise issues and any buffering that you'll be doing and light pollution?
Yep. So we answered a few of these questions at the CIM, so thank you for bringing that up. We do have noise standards, and part of that is doing a pre and post noise study. Quite frankly, the equipment that Piedmont Natural Gas has in these buildings will be substantially quieter than any of the surrounding industrial. With me today is Patrick Simpson, who is the engineering manager. Is there anything you want to speak to in terms of noise standards or what Piedmont designs to mitigate noise concerns? Sure.
So for a facility like this, a typical code requirement would be that we would maintain a noise level of less than 55 dBA at the nearest noise-sensitive area. We actually go above a step beyond that and require less than 55 dBA at the property boundary. And for this facility, the property boundary is actually the property that will most likely drive the noise design will be that property boundary right there with the quarry, which is very close to the facility relative to any of the other residential properties nearby. And like Adam said, the equipment we're adding is very quiet. We're not going to have much of an issue meeting that 5 dBA at the property boundary.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I will open the public hearing for PD 2018-2-A Piedmont Natural Gas. Next signed up on the list is Robin Nichols. Okay, thank you. Then we have George Arena.
Good evening, George Arena, 6081 Pier Drive, Denver, in the Trilogy subdivision. I'm here to speak representing a group of people. I know you've got some letters relative to the noise issue, the potential noise issue. Our concern is not necessarily what Piedmont Gas is putting in at this immediate time, but is this a way to get noise creep by additional turbines or by additional equipment? Is this equipment being put in to expand Duke's capability to put another turbine in? I'm like trying to understand what the technical basis for putting this equipment is relative to the noise.
So this equipment, just to be clear, is not turbines. It's not associated with power generation. We are simply increasing the throughput on the pipeline that's existing. Again, it's not connected to hydraulically. The pipeline at this facility does not connect to the Duke Lincoln plant. So it is simply increasing capacity on Piedmont system to feed our downstream system. It is physically located at the Lincoln plant, but it is not directly tied whatsoever to the power generation or their turbine equipment. There's different terminology of the types of equipment we're putting in, but it is not turbine. It's electrically powered. I'm not sure if that adequately answers.
Yeah, the concern was that you're putting this equipment in to increase your capacity so Duke can increase their capacity, thereby increasing the noise.
Again, this pipeline goes through the Duke Lincoln parcel, but it starts before the parcel and ends after the parcel. This pipeline does not serve the Duke power plant.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Having no one else signed up to speak, I will close the public hearing. Now we will move to PD 2025-3.
The applicant in this case is RK Investments Charlotte LLC, and they are requesting to rezone 30.4 acres from transitional residential and general business to planned development mixed use to permit a 324-unit apartment complex, a 12,000 square foot child care center, and a 6,500 square foot medical office building. The property is located on the west side of Pilot Knob Road, north of Highway 73, and east of 16 Business in the Catawba Springs Township. The applicant has included with their application a site-specific vesting plan. If approved, the development of the property would be limited to that plan and the terms and conditions shown on that plan, as well as in a development agreement that the applicant would need to work through with the Board of Commissioners to get to its final version. And that's a relatively new requirement of the Unified Development Ordinance within the past year or so for mixed-use plan developments. And so the applicant has included that site plan as well as the draft version of that development agreement. One of the items mentioned in that development agreement, one of the deliverables, is the off-site traffic improvements. So a traffic impact study was performed to assess the need to mitigate the impact of this development on the studied intersections in this area. The North Carolina Department of Transportation reviewed that study. Our planning staff reviewed that study, and we have confirmed that the recommendations of that study demonstrate compliance with our level of service standards to off-site the impacts of this development.
Oh! Hey, y'all are out of order. Y'all are out of order. Continue, please.
So the applicant hosted a community involvement meeting in November. There were quite a few concerns about the traffic study that were raised at that meeting. So the applicant hosted a second community involvement meeting in December and provided some additional detail with regards to the study, the methodology of that study, and fielded some questions from the attendees there. With regards to the proposed plan, the applicant has indicated they intend to serve this development with public water and public sewer. Of course, that would be contingent upon fully designed utility plans being submitted and reviewed and approved by the Lincoln County Public Utilities Division. There are some improvements to the existing system that may be necessary, but it would be up to the applicant to provide those plans and to make those improvements necessary to serve their development. This plan demonstrates compliance with the UDO standards with regards to recreation and open space, perimeter project buffers, those vegetative buffers around the perimeter of this project. This plan is consistent. Our staff feels it's consistent with what the Lincoln County Land Use Plan calls for this area. So this is part of a larger area that's designated by the Land Use Plan as a walkable activity center with a mixture of uses to provide pedestrian and vehicular accessibility to the live-work units here. People can access those goods and services on the adjoining parcels and in the other parcels within this walkable activity center. The planning staff is recommending approval of this request. You have our proposed statement in your packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeremiah?
I do.
Okay.
Jeremiah, do we know who is going to manage the healthcare facility? Is it Atrium? Is it Novant? Do we know?
I'm not aware of those details.
Because if it's going to be a hospital facility, they have to get approval from North Carolina Hospital Association, I believe, and we haven't seen anything about that. And
Yeah, so the site plan identifies that as a medical office building.
a medical office building and not a
correct.
care place.
Correct.
And we're to believe that 344 houses is not going to affect Pilot Knob Road. Let me just say that, you know, I travel that pretty regularly, and I would suggest that it's going to not only affect the folks there on Pilot Knob, but the folks on Hager's Hollow as well, because everyone's going to start cutting down Hager's Hollow because there's a traffic light down there that allows you to turn left or right, which is going to increase the traffic over in that neighborhood and across from the golf course and all that. So I'm concerned about not just Pilot Knob, but the other traffic area.
So I'll certainly allow the applicant's traffic engineer to speak to the details on the methodology and the premise of that study. One thing I will touch on is that there are commitments from other developers to improve one of the studied intersections here, probably the most vital studied intersection of this study, which is the intersection of Highway 73 and Pilot Knob Road. The Carrington subdivision is required to complete some improvements to that intersection. And so, again, I'll allow the traffic engineer to confirm this, but my understanding is their study was premised upon the completion of those improvements by others. And so the lone recommended improvement from this traffic study is a turn lane at the side entrance on Pilot Knob Road.
And how long? Stop. Hold on, y'all.
Hold on.
And how long has Carrington had these things on go before that? Because they haven't happened yet. Nobody's turned a shovel out there yet. How long have they been waiting to do those?
So those improvements are tied to the third phase of the Carrington subdivision, which is approaching or may have already received full approval. I believe it just received approval last week to actually start construction of that phase. And so prior to the recording of the subdivision plat for that third phase of Carrington, those off-site improvements at the studied intersection of Pilot Knob Road and 73 must be completed.
Hold on, everybody's going to get a chance to speak. Hold on.
I believe to answer the spirit of your question, Commissioner, the Carrington subdivision was approved quite some time ago as far as the rezoning. I believe it is around 2018. The first two phases took a while to get through plan review, but the first phase has been recorded, the second phase has been recorded, and that third phase is about to start.
It seems as though we wait until the last minute to get all the traffic stuff done, and not wait until we should be getting the traffic stuff done first, and then building buildings.
Chairman, you said that there was a draft copy of a agreement in here. In that agreement, can we request that the traffic be done before the site plan is taking place?
I think that's something that the county attorney might like to speak to.
I will speak to that. So this agreement has not been negotiated. This is the base draft that we are working from. So yes, we could require that in the development agreement. We could use that as part of our negotiations. So it's not out of the question.
Chairman. And this may be one of those considerations where, as planning board, the planning staff has discussed, where we could engage with the developer after this into one of our work sessions to look through those conditions and evaluate the agreement between what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. This may be something that's worth that type of engagement.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions by the planning board or commissioner for Jeremiah? Okay. Are the applicants here? You have to sign up to speak. This is a big case. We will determine at the end of this if no one else has signed up to speak, and if your name's not on here, we may give you additional opportunity to speak. So you cannot make a motion, sir. Okay, before we go any further, we need everyone in the audience to take a deep breath, okay? We understand where you're coming from on traffic, 100%. We have rules and procedures that we have to follow. I'm asking everyone to please refrain from making comments. Let everyone be heard. People have signed up to speak. We are going to allow the people that have signed up to speak. After this, if everything has not been repetitive, we may allow other people to speak if they have something else to add. So at this time, we are asking the applicants, if they would like to speak, you have the podium.
We want to advance. How do we advance this? Just straightforward. Okay, so it'll pull up the presentation. Yeah. If you take a few. Okay. Good evening, County Commissioners and members of the community. My name's Tom Brassi. I'm a partner with RK Investors, and I've been working with the family that owns this large tract of land for about 5 years. I'm here tonight with one of the family members, as well as Matt Langston from Landworks, Randy Goddard from DRG, and our attorney Rob Brown to discuss our proposal as well as the reasoning behind it. RK Investors is a group of just 4 of us, local to Charlotte, not a large publicly traded fund or some institutional investor. We're 4 guys who genuinely care and put a lot of time into producing communities that we can be proud to own long term. We've only sold 1 project that we've developed, and we own and maintain the other assets for the long term. You can see the difference that makes in how we design and build them with quality materials and smart design. I have a couple pictures of some of the other apartments we have built, and 2 of them are in North Charlotte. I'd strongly encourage anyone to visit them. They're not that far. Go see what they look like. One of them is almost 10 years old at this point, and you can see the care we take to maintain them is new. We're looking to take the same approach here, building a community to meet the needs of a growing area and setting the bar a little bit higher while doing so. Tonight, I think it's also important to introduce the members of the community who were here, largely as a result of their personal experiences with the traffic in the Denver area and some public outreach by some of them. It's no secret that Highway 73 needs to be widened. Those plans have continued to be delayed by NCDOT. This was such a big issue at our first public meeting that we did elect to hold a second public meeting to allow additional time and for our traffic engineer to answer some questions. There were some fairly knowledgeable people in the audience, but we really wanted to have some interaction between that individual and our engineer. I'll let him speak about that a little bit more when it's his turn to get up here. That information was analyzed and shared with both the county and NCDOT. Both the information provided by the residents and Randy here. Next, I'm happy to introduce Ms. Sonia Gales, who's a member of the family that has owned this property and worked with us over the past 5 years.
Thanks, Tom. Commissioners, community. My name is Sonia Gales, and I'm here by many of my family members, my brothers, my nieces, my nephews, and children. Sure, I'm sorry. Sorry. Some of you have known us for decades. Others are newer to the area and not know our family. But for those who do and don't know our story, we are the Hager Morrison family, and our family has been blessed to own and care for this land in this county for generations back to the 1800s. The parcel we're talking about tonight, bordering Pilot Knob, is the last piece of undeveloped property on that western side of North Pilot Knob. Every other acre around it has changed hands or been developed over the years. We understand land ownership and management changes as families grow, loved ones die, and as more people move into our community. We have seen the desire for progress and development, expansion, and closer conveniences. Our family has held onto this property as long as seemed right, farming it and maintaining it in forestry, and simply keeping it as open space. Our parents and grandparents, along with ourselves, were born and raised right here in this county, and some even on this property. Our kids were raised here, our grandkids are being raised here, and Lord willing, we plan to keep living right here for whatever years we have left. This community is our home. It's not just where we live, it's who we are. Many of you cannot imagine the changes we have seen in our lifetimes. However, we have always acknowledged and supported landowner rights to manage the property they own. When we finally decided the time had come to do something different with that piece of ground, we didn't take that decision lightly. We talked to a lot of developers over the years, some from right here in the county, some from far away, and we've turned down more offers than I can count because they didn't feel right for our family, our land, or our neighbors. We have chosen to work with RK. We've worked for this group for over 5 years, and I can tell you this is a quality group with integrity. They're local from Charlotte and not a cookie-cutter developer. We genuinely believe this partnership can be a positive long-term relationship for our entire community. Not just a one-and-done project where the developer builds, sells, and walks away. RK builds and maintains their apartment complexes so they have an interest in being community citizens. Over the last 5 years, I've witnessed them work patiently through many issues, including UDO changes, an application deletion that required a restart, sewer solutions that benefit our whole community, duplicate traffic studies, and multiple community meetings. What they're proposing, this apartment complex, is something our community needs. It is for young families, for teachers, for nurses, for first responders, for our own kids and grandkids to find a decent, affordable place to rent. This project will bring well-designed, quality housing that fits the character of our area, and it lines up exactly with what the county's own comprehensive land use plan is for that quarter. In other words, this isn't something being forced on us. It's the kind of growth our elected leaders and planners have said for years that makes sense right there, and that business owners and rental companies of our county say is needed. We're proud of this proposal, and we're proud to stand beside this developer. This has always been and will continue to be our community. We live in close proximity to this development. We understand there's an impact. We believe that the benefit outweighs the impact, and that this project is something our family can be proud to be a part of. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Board, and Commissioners, I'm Matt Langston with Landworks Design Group. We've been working with RK for the last 5 years on this project. As Jeremiah mentioned, the site's located bounded by Pilot Knob Road, and on the west side, the Brentwood Road access into the public shopping center. It's about a little over 30 acres, and we're proposing to rezone to PD mixed use. As Jeremiah also mentioned, your future land use plan calls for this area to be walkable activity center. We believe that bringing these additional units into that purple zone as shown on this map provides necessary rooftops for the commercial to help improve the vitality and the mixed use function of the center that's proposed by your land use plan. This is a copy of the site plan that we're contemplating. Some of the residents may notice that we've increased the open space adjacent to Pilot Knob Road. The site has a gas pipeline that runs through it, as well as overhead power line right-of-way, and so we've configured the site plan around that. The amenity space is central focal point of the land plan as well. The non-residential uses are contemplated on the west side over by Brentwood Road. You can see where the medical office and the daycare facility are labeled. One of the components of Walkable Activity Center is obviously walkability. We've got a strong pedestrian network internal to the site that will also connect over to Brentwood Road. We've had conversations with the planning department about a possible thread trail connection that would come through the property as well. So we feel like this is a strong improvement for that area, reinforcing the walkability of the site. So next, I'd like to turn it over to Randy Goddard to talk about transportation.
So I'm Randy Goddard with Design Resource Group, Senior Principal. We have been assisting the arcade development team on this project. And like with any traffic study project, we initiated by talking with the county and with NCDOT to scope the project. And what you've got here is the site plan along with the area of influence. So in the discussions, it was determined that we would look at and count these 8 intersections in addition to analyze the access point for the project. So with this, we're not adding all the traffic to North Pilot Knob. We're taking advantage of the connectivity that we have with this site plan and the internal street network to be able to provide connections internally across the Publix grocery store site and through the other streets that we have there. So not all the trips go in and out of one access point for the site. So with that traffic study, after we've completed it, we've distributed the trips, we analyzed the intersections, and with that we came up, had the discussion with Lincoln County and with NCDOT, provided the initial traffic study. It was reviewed and approved, and what we had again was the one access point with the northbound left turn lane on North Pilot Knob. But what you see here is what we call the stick figure, which shows the roadway improvements in red, but we've also got the improvements that were talked about earlier that are the Carrington project, the Phase 3, which RK has indicated that they would basically backstop and guarantee those improvements in by the time they get to their last CO with their project. So those are shown in blue, and I'll touch on those in a minute. In addition, what we found out in the discussions, and we had the community involvement meeting, is that we're just not doing the left turn lane that's northbound. We're increasing that storage from what it was in the original traffic study. So we're making that left turn lane 100 feet long for storage. In addition to that, we're adding a southbound right turn lane on North Pilot Knob into the main access point. So those were not in the original approved traffic study. So I also want to touch on that before I go any further. During the discussions with the community at the involvement meeting that I was able to attend, we had good discussions. There was a lot of comments related to the traffic study. We took those comments, did a thorough review, and the ones that were provided in writing, we turned around, reviewed those, and provided a detailed response back to the county and NCDOT in a document in early January. So the Carrington improvements, I know there's been discussion on that, but again, this project is basically guaranteeing that those are going to get done. And what we're going to do there, or what Carrington has proposed to do, that we're guaranteeing will be an increase in the northbound left turn lane storage. Excuse me, okay. So the phase 3 will be improvement northbound right turn lane. They're adding that for 230 feet on South Pilot Knob at 73. We're increasing the westbound left turn lane storage from 110 to 275. And there's going to be signal improvements and upgrades to that intersection for protected phasing for the turn lanes. This here is just an aerial shot of the approved plans that NCDOT and the county have already approved, showing this, so it's in addition to what you just saw on the stick figure. These are the improvements at Carrington Phase 3 as indicated for 73 and 16. Again, this is an improvement that we're basically guaranteeing will be in place. This includes modifying the pavement markings to add a second northbound left turn lane on 16. And right now you can only make a single left. They're going to modify it for a through left and then take out the median that's on the opposite corner to be able to accept those northbound dual lefts. In addition to that, where improvements on 73 will increase the westbound right turn lane storage, and they'll add basically from a single westbound lane to dual westbound lanes because the elimination of that median. This will also include signal modifications and upgrades just like at the other intersection at 73 and Pilot Knob. So those are the improvements that came out of the traffic study and also the ones that RK is basically guaranteeing that'll be in place. And with that, I want to pass it back to Tom to talk about the development.
Hold on, I have a question. So the Carrington Phase 3, those improvements,
yes, sir.
in your traffic study, this is just for clarification, in your traffic study, those improvements have already been accounted for?
Those improvements were to be done by Carrington.
I understand, but are they accounted for in your study?
In our traffic study, we don't have those because we took the worst case, because if we took those improvements into place, we would have to count for the trips for Carrington. So we took it as a baseline, added just our trips, because when you do off-site improvements, you take those into account and you assume that they're in place. So we wanted to make sure that if those were not in place, we would fully mitigate what our trips would be. But like I've said, what RK has indicated that they will backstop and guarantee those improvements above and beyond what they've already committed to in the traffic study. Other questions before I pass it off?
Any commissioner have any additional questions?
So, okay. So how many trips do you believe there are going to be out of 344 apartments?
So the apartment project is going to generate 1,500 daily trips. What we analyze are the peak trips during the AM and the afternoon peak hours. We take those, add them onto the counts that we took, and then we analyze those intersections.
1,500.
That's daily trips in and out total over a day. Yes, sir.
Are there any additional questions for the applicant? Planning board good? Commissioners good? Okay, I will open the public hearing for PD 2025-3.
I was turning this back to Tom for
Okay.
further.
All right,
Yeah,
sorry about that.
No problem, thank you.
Almost finished, sorry. So this is the conceptual architecture we're proposing for the site, which is a mixture of brick and hardy panel construction. We do not use vinyl. Again, we try to make things a little bit nicer. The architecture that you see is based on buildings we've actually built before, very similar to another Class A community that the architect did for us. This is an architect we've known for about 12 years. In addition to the discussions about traffic that were the majority of our public meetings, another conversation revolved around whether or not there was a need for more housing of this type in Lincoln County. We've conducted 2 different market studies with firms specializing in multifamily housing as well as a paid market research firm, all of which have agreed on the need in this submarket. I wanted to share some other data we have collected to quickly point out some key metrics. The slide on the screen is from a 2025 UNC study of housing. It's a comparison of housing vacancy for the counties in our region, which speaks to the undersupply of units in Lincoln County. In fact, vacancy in Lincoln County is the lowest of the entire MSA. According to the most recent data available from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, from 2019 to 2024, Lincoln County had added 5,634 jobs to the total employed persons, which is a gain of 13.8%, which is great. On top of that, in 2025, the Green New Energy Materials Company announced another 545 jobs in Denver. That further adds demand for housing in this area on top of what I just mentioned. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, during that same exact period, Lincoln County added only 4,030 housing units, or 10.8% growth. We're not keeping up with the demand for housing in this part of the county, and we're pushing people that work in the community to take to the roads, further clogging up routes like 16 and 73 to get to these jobs. To further prove my point, the U.S. Census also reports that there are already over 15,000 people commuting into Lincoln County for their employment right now. Additionally, you may be aware that during the UDO process, the Industrial Managers Association of Lincoln County sent this letter to the Commission asking that the county provide options in the UDO for higher density workforce housing. This was from a group of over 35 of the biggest employers in the county who had real concerns about the ability to serve the current and future housing needs for their employees. Our request is consistent with the needs of the employers that have been coming to the county to work and establish lives here. I guess almost everyone in this room has lived in an apartment at some point in their lives, either as a first place out of school or the military or perhaps part of starting a new job in an area that you may eventually want to set roots in. This is a housing option that communities need, and I'm here on behalf of our group to ask that we be allowed to execute on that need in a fashion that you can be proud of, that is respectful of the community, and is in keeping with the recently passed UDO, of which we are compliant. Our project will have several public benefits, including the aforementioned workforce housing, roadway improvements, our offer to backstop the Carrington NCDOT improvements, pedestrian connectivity, off-site sewer rehabilitation, which benefits not just us, but unlocks a lot of additional capacity for other future projects in this basin, as well as off-site water main rehabilitation along Highway 16. Well, I say yes. Our plan aligns with the Lincoln County Future Land Use Plan. We've worked with the staff and proposed the county's first developer agreement that memorialize our commitments and makes them part of any zoning approval, plus the road and infrastructure improvements that we detailed to the staff and the community. This proposal is consistent with the Lincoln County Land Use Plan and the proposed walkable activity center for this site. It's reasonable because the land use plan supports additional density in this area. The development improves the variety of housing units available in the area. The development ensures off-site transportation improvements and proposes substantial pedestrian and trail improvements to benefit the greater community. Thank you for your consideration.
Can I make a request that we get a copy of that presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will now open the public hearing for PD 2025-3. First on the list, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize if I butcher your name. I'm sorry, but some of these names are hard to read. So, first on the list, Patty Corn.
Patty Corn, 3165 Lakeshore Road South in Denver. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Denver Beautification Committee, which opposes this proposed development. Many of the decisions of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners in the past 20 years have adversely impacted the quality of life in eastern Lincoln County. There are numerous examples to support this statement. If this Board of Commissioners approves this proposed development, you will not only be continuing to adversely impact our quality of life, but you will also be threatening the public safety of the Denver community. Public safety includes a lot more than just law enforcement. It means having roads that are safe, that can handle the volume of traffic, and having an adequate public utility infrastructure. We know that we cannot count on required and promised road improvements to be completed until they're actually completed. As stated in the development agreement, between the county, the developer, and the property owners, the developer has promised to complete the Carrington Phase 3 road improvements if Carrington doesn't, subject to the availability of the existing public right-of-way and DOT approval, and only if RK Investments is allowed to proceed with its development. As a friend stated, we have seen this movie before. In the Rivercross development, the county allowed almost 500 new homes to be developed before all the required road improvements were completed, and the county relieved the Rivercross developer of the requirement to build a required turn lane. Another developer is now requesting to be relieved of their required road improvement to 150 and Shuford Road. Again, we cannot count on required and promised road improvements until they're actually completed. And I hope that the county learns from past mistakes and requires developers to complete all required road improvements before more homes are built. I would also feel more comfortable if there was an independent analysis done to confirm whether the county has sufficient water and sewer capability. Based on my personal experience, I'm not confident that commissioners are always getting accurate information from staff. In addition, there seems to be frequent water line breaks along Business 16, and we recently learned in a budget meeting, thanks to the local newspaper, that one of the lift stations is struggling with demand. And, quote, ideally, the commissioners would like to increase capacity at all the lift stations, but that would be extraordinarily expensive. And who pays for that? Us taxpayers. If the lift stations are struggling with demand now, it is contrary to public safety to approve more development. In addition, we currently, right now, we don't have utility companies, gas or electric, that can get us through our brief winter months with reasonable utility bills. And in addition, after this last snowstorm, Duke Energy asked its customers to reduce their energy use to avoid temporary blackouts. So if the electrical grid can't handle the existing customer base, it's contrary to public safety to approve more development. And finally, Lincoln County Commissioners frequently remind residents, as does the attorney to the Board of Commissioners, that the county is not responsible for road improvements. But what the county can do is start to challenge these traffic impact analysis that are replete with errors and don't pass the common sense test like this one. My time is up. Other speakers will address the TIA.
Okay, next we have George Barr.
George Barr, 7837 Live Oaks Drive, Denver, North Carolina. And I'm speaking for ELBA and request 5 minutes. Thank you. ELBA opposes approval of PD 2025-3 unless and until failing and dangerous intersections are remediated prior to approval. The county paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for an East Lincoln mobility study in 2019. That report came out in 2020. 7 East Lincoln intersections were categorized as failing at that time. In 2019, there were 14 crash hotspot locations that are not included in those failing intersections. This is in addition in East Lincoln, and many of them are very, very close to where this development is proposed off of 16 Business and off of 73. And you all, if you're from East Lincoln, you probably know which ones they are. I have a list. I'm not going to read them all. No doubt there are several more failing and dangerous intersections and crash hotspots now, some 7 years later. This project proposes a 10-year window to build. I wonder how many more intersections are going to be dangerous, hotspots, and failing. So adding another 1,500 vehicles a day doesn't sound like a lot, but they're being added to an already failing and dangerous intersection, and it simply doesn't make sense. Despite what NCDOT, county planning and zoning staff, and every developer's traffic engineer ever claims. Their rationale is that a little more failing on top of already failing is acceptable. Those of us who waste more and more of our precious time on this earth stuck in increasingly dangerous traffic vehemently disagree. ELBA asks that the Commission deny this application. Thank you.
Next we have Linda. Yeah, bud.
Linda Ostergaard, 8514 Pine Lake Road, Denver. Good evening, Commissioners. Chapter 160D, Article 7, Zoning Regulations Purpose, in part, shall be designed to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. To that end, the regulations may address, among other things, the following public purpose: to provide adequate light and air, to prevent the overcrowding of land, to avoid the undue concentration of population, to lessen congestion in the streets, to secure public safety from fire, panic, dangers, and to facilitate the efficient and adequate provision of transportation, water, sewer, schools, parks, and other public requirements, and to promote health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. This proposed development runs contrary to the majority of those purposes. Planning staff's statement of consistency and reasonableness is not aligned with the intent and purpose of Article 7 of the statutes. Additionally, many misrepresentations in the TIA were identified during the community involvement meeting. DRG subsequently attempted to answer the counts for multifamily units and indeed explained that, quote, trip rates vary by land use. For example, the ITE Trip Generation Manual, 12th edition, indicates that the low-rise apartments generate more trips per unit than mid-rise apartments. However, DRG used code 221, which represents mid-rise dwellings. NCDOT classifies 1 to 3 stories as low-rise, or code 220. By their own admission, code 221 inaccurately minimizes the trip generation count in favor of the developer. Many other misrepresentations also exist, such as DRG's classification of Pilot Knob as a local roadway, not a major collector, per NCDOT, and Highway 73 is not a 4-lane roadway. They also used edition 11 and not 12 of the Trip Generation Manual. Lincoln County planning staff was negligent and in error to sign off on the TAI. East Lincoln no longer only just suffers from the unequitable distribution of growth and the traffic congestion that comes with it, but it's also a tangible and substantial safety risk. NCDOT crash data reflects on an average 11% increase in accidents in the 4 years from 2020 to 2024. During 2025, accidents increased 15% in 1 year. This is an exponential increase from the norm as we begin to see the detriment to safety from the explosive growth of the past several years. Additionally, the never-ending need for expanded water and sewer to supply these new developments is an unequitable financial burden on the residents of East Lincoln. Since we pay almost exclusively all this costs, except for some grants, the entire cost of expanded water and sewer, even when those expansions are constructed in the western area of the county, East Lincoln still pays most of the costs.
Okay, ma'am, your time has expired. How much more do you have?
1 sentence, 2 sentences.
Okay, go ahead and finish, please.
It is long past due that the commission band together for the protection of East Lincoln County. If you choose to vote in favor of this request, you're complicit in further jeopardizing the safety and quality of life for your constituents here in East Lincoln.
Next, we have Rick Judson. Rick Judson. And followed by Rick will be Ned Devine.
Beg pardon?
I was just letting everybody know who's after you. If you're Rick Judson, following you is Ned Devine.
Echo, I cannot hear you, but I'll.
He's just saying who followed you.
Go ahead.
I was just saying that Rick Judson is the next speaker and letting everybody know that Ned Devine will follow you. So you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Rick Judson. I'm a native Charlottean. I live at 8201 Brightwater Lane in Denver, which is about 1.5 miles from the subject property. I use it every day, multiple times a day. And I would like to present a couple of items that are very objective and factual. I have no dog in this fight whatsoever. I will disclose that I was the past state president for the North Carolina Home Builders Association and the past national president for the National Association of Home Builders. So I've had the opportunity to see the good and the bad and the ugly, and they exist. There's no such thing as a panacea or the perfect project. Focusing on three particular items here, which are the financial responsibility and the economics of this project, the environmental aspect, and the social aspects. This property paid $2,600 last year in property taxes. This property paid $2,600 last year in property taxes. The proposed construction will generate about $120 million in tax base, not tax dollars, base that can be taxed. Now, how that's used is to be determined. Generally speaking, the cost for a mixed-use project to service by public utilities in a municipality is lower than a single-family home. There's a delta in there that mixes between what is required and what is allowed by the county commissioners and what we as citizenry expect. So I think we're going to find out that maybe it's not as overtaxing as we think. It might generate delta net profits for tax use. The fact that we have an affordable housing problem is a fact. You've heard three people tonight talk about the need for housing in this municipality, particularly Denver. People move here for a quality of life. This property is exact replica of what was asked for in the UDO, the Unified Development Ordinance, and the land planning. So I think it needs to be given some serious consideration as to what we're asking for. It is centralized, it is walkable. Whether people walk or not is to be determined. But you have multiple entrance and egress points from that property, much more than you would if you're on single-family community of what would be about 200 acres to accommodate this for single-family homes. So it's the density that will create some walkability. It's a density that should help keep the traffic base down. We're going to have traffic problems. There's going to be Pilot Knob Road traffic, and there are several ways that can be addressed. That's to be determined at another time. That's just fine too. The environmental issue is another thing. You've got Central Park, you've got open space, you've got issues on this property that will be unique to that property. If you moved it out, all you'll do is move that congestion and traffic, and the people that want to live in Denver, you'll move them out up toward Westport or some other area. Now they're congesting the roads again. I think maybe the most important, or one of the most important issues, is the social aspect. The difference has been made that people live in apartments are degenerates or someone less capable of fulfilling community needs. They are my children, they're your children, they're our teachers, they're our first response officers. There are people that haven't saved $80,000 yet, which is what it costs today to buy a home in Denver. So I would ask that there are a lot of boxes to be checked, some positive, some negatively. But in my experience, which I think is objective and relatively broad, there are more boxes that are needed to be checked positively as fulfilling a positive need than are negatively in a denial. Thank you.
Okay, next is Ned Devine. Holly Stokes will follow Ned.
My name is Ned Devine. I live at 6972 Potter House Lane, Iron Station. I'm a lifelong resident of Iron Station. I mourn the change that's going on because I see my way of life as being, I guess I'm a dinosaur, to speak. But the RK folks gave a beautiful presentation. Some of these, I'm shooting from the hip. I don't have a prepared speech. But A lot of good stuff, both coming and going. And I know things are going to change. It's inevitable. But until we can get Raleigh, and I hope the Madam Attorney don't hold me in contempt of court here, but I'm going to speak about the traffic. Until we can get Raleigh to do something, we can't just keep adding businesses because businesses require homes and all that kind of stuff. We just can't keep doing that. Raleigh has got to do something for our part of the state. So, beautiful apartments, looks great, and will happen eventually, but it can't happen right now. It just can't. We don't have the schools. We don't have the roads. We just can't handle it. It's a good thing it's a walkable activity area because you're going to have to walk everywhere you want to go. It's, and I guess Publix loses a lot of grocery carts, so there'll be people pushing groceries home in. But anyway, I'll be done here. I'm gonna get done real quick. It's just till something happens with the roads, and we know roads don't get done overnight. They could talk about something now, it'll take 10 years to get it done. But something's got to start before we can just keep piling more and more homes, houses, apartments, businesses, all that. Something's got to happen. That area it was rural, and the roads are still rural. You may even find a tractor out there sometimes. I know the road I live on, you find a lot of them. So please, like I say, they did a fine presentation. It looks great, and it will happen eventually, but we got to slow this stuff down. We just got to. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Stokes, followed by Margie Headley. Got Polly speaking now, followed by Margie.
Hi, good evening. My name is Polly Stokes. I live at 205 Springwood Drive in Denver. And something I've noticed right off the bat that wasn't addressed at all, and a huge elephant in the room, is I live right there behind Catawba Springs Elementary and East Lincoln High School. The schools in Denver, period, I know there's a new building project. They're working on one of the schools now. I don't think Catawba Springs is supposed to be added on to for at least another year. Those schools are so overcrowded. The charter school has a waiting list. The schools, they can't accommodate the kids. I don't know how many kids in a classroom at Catawba Springs. They've never gotten rid of their mobile units out there. Our church is a huge donator of time to the school because there's not enough people working with the kids. Anyone that read the newspapers this past fall realizes I don't think East Lincoln, the middle school, or the elementary still have enough teachers. They still had job openings in October and November. I don't think it was because the people couldn't get housing in Denver. And I appreciate your report on how wonderful this project would be, but your statistics were for all of Lincoln County. Denver houses more people in Denver than all of Lincoln, the rest of Lincoln County. We get our largest tax base. The majority of tax base for all of Lincoln County doesn't come from the farmland out in West Lincoln. It is beautiful, but that's not Denver. It comes from Denver, from all the industry coming in, the new homes, the homing subdivisions, and all the businesses. And I go to Huntersville 3 days a week to swim for exercise. I go every morning. I have to leave my house by the high school at 8:15 to go 6 miles to get to Huntersville to swim at 9 o'clock in the morning. And many days, my girlfriend and I are late. So imagine that amount of traffic there. That is not in your traffic study. That traffic study was a joke because I live really close to there. I travel these roads. That light at Pilot Knob to turn a left to go up to Salem Church or up to Cowan's Ford, I sit there every day. I sit in no less than 3 rounds of that stoplight. Do you know how much pollution that adds to Denver also? Has anyone? I don't know, you talk about all these studies. Has anyone done a pollutant study? Because you know what? I can't handle car fumes. I don't know anyone that likes them, but I get my fair share way more than I'd like to. But please stop this and go with townhomes or something else so that Denver can at least survive until we get these new roads built. 73 is not even projected to be wide now until 2027. That is a full year from now. It's been pushed back 3 times. Please help the citizens of Eastern Lincoln County enjoy what we deserve. Thank you.
My name's Margie Headley. We live at 8890 Hager's Ferry Road in Denver. I noticed that the road improvement from the other development, Carrington, is on South Pilot Knob, not North Pilot Knob. And the development will be exiting onto North Pilot Knob. The developers said that there was many exits and it was going to mitigate the number of people coming out onto North Pilot Knob. Unless they're standing there with a stopper to stop traffic after it reaches a certain number, I don't see how that's going to help. Because coming out onto North Pilot Knob will allow people to go north on 73, south on 73, come down around the corner past Hager's Ferry to go north on 16. They're not going to cut through the shopping center. If they come out by the Waffle House, they can only turn right to go towards Lincolnton. I don't see how this is going to make traffic any easier, especially for us coming out of Hager's Ferry. They had to change that road of Pilot Knob to add an traffic light over by Holy Spirit Church so that we could actually turn left onto 16. The only way we could get out of our area was to go down Pilot Knob to Pilot Knob and 73, where we could turn right to go down towards Lowe's or Walmart. So I don't see how adding, 1,500 more cars a day is going to make it easier for us to get out of Hager's Ferry. They're going to be, they're going to be blocking the intersection all the way past Hager's Ferry from that traffic light. We'll never get out.
This is Mr. Nix, it's Martin Oaks. Martin, did you sign up? Martin, did you sign up? Yeah. Okay, you're next.
Can't read your writing.
Okay. Martin Oaks, 8057 Lucky Creek Lane, Denver, North Carolina. Let's talk about traffic studies. There was a traffic study done in 2017 for the existing Publix apartments. And of course, we have the traffic study that this developer has submitted. And just to look at these, the original traffic study for the first batch of apartments had 240 apartments. And currently we have somewhere like 340 or 360. I see different numbers in this thing. But essentially the bottom line here is that this new bunch of apartments is projected to generate 20% fewer trips than the traffic study that was generated for the prior bunch of apartments. So what happened there? So that's clearly something wrong, and it also doesn't track with the East Lincoln Mobility Study. The other major thing here is that there's arbitrary and, if you might say, capricious settings in here. They claim that only 45% of the trips from the apartments will go onto North Pilot Knob. The main exit from those apartments is going to generate only 45% of the trips. Everybody else is going to wander somewhere else. Hard to believe. And that's an arbitrary assumption. There's no backup for that. And when they say that the county has approved this, I'm sorry, the county does not look at this stuff. The county does not have the current ITE manual, and according to what I just heard, they rely on DOT to check that the traffic generation is correct. The other part of this that's arbitrary is the daycare. The daycare page that you see there, they claim a 20 to 25% reduction in the afternoon only by daycare as what's called a pass-by. A pass-by, according to the manual, is, gee, we were going somewhere else and we'd stop at the gas station or somewhere else. And that's used generally for things like convenience stores or banks or whatever. But if you're going to a daycare, you're not going there as you're going somewhere else. You're delivering your kid, you're picking your kid up. You cannot reduce those trips by 20-odd% saying, oh, I was going somewhere else and I thought I'd drop off my kid. This is all pretty ridiculous. And the worst excuse for a traffic study I've seen in a bunch of years, and I've looked at a lot of them. Thank you.
All right, next we have Mary Marlowe.
Gary.
Gary, okay.
My name is Gary Garlow. I live at 7987 Broadmoor Lane in Stanley. It gives me the privilege of fighting this traffic every day. In addition, I'm retired, so I get to choose the time of day and avoid a lot of the traffic. What I encourage you to do is use some common sense on this. If you're going to make a decision to improve something, do it on factual information. You've heard Martin's challenge to the traffic studies. You've heard others challenge the traffic studies. In my confusion, I asked my previous firm, Kimley Horn and Associates, to just do a projection on the apartments, and their projection is far higher than the one in this traffic study. So if you proceed, I would suggest that you at least get an independent study of the traffic and the improvements required that are generated by that traffic. The traffic also is generated, the traffic study says it will be used Brentwood and the streets inside Cambridge Village. Those are private roads. Those are not public roads. I also got confused a little bit by the level of service. I have been a traffic engineer for many years. I've been a city engineer and a city planner. So I went and did my traffic analysis myself and counted the traffic at the intersection of Pilot's Knob and 73. The manual of traffic control defines a level of service B for movements as a delay of about 30 seconds. You don't need to be a scientist to go drive to that intersection and know that it is not level of service B. It is level of service F. Your own mobility study predicted that if the improvements were not made on 73, that it would be level of service F. I wasn't planning to comment on the schools, but since it was brought up, I mentor in Rock Springs. I can't even find a place to take the boy I mentor to a private place because that school is so overcrowded. Folks, it's time to get accurate information. It's time to pause. It's time to do some things that look forward. I would challenge the statement that the county can't do anything about roads. And I'm going to run over a couple seconds if I can, Mr. Chairman, give you an example. I used to sit over here as a planning board member. I sat over there as the chair of the planning board for a while. If you'll take a look at Waterside when you go drive out tomorrow, you'll see that Waterside was done while I was chair of the planning board, and you'll see right away that is left where there won't be anything needed to be moved when 16's widen and 73's widen. There are many, many things that can be done with developers if you have the wisdom and the foresight, not just on roads, but on schools and on utilities. And it's time the county started to do that, because all of these traffic studies and independent studies have been done have ended up in chaos.
Mr. Garlow, Mr. Garlow. Gary. Hold on, Mr. Garlow. Go back.
Bud has a question for you. Sue Walters is next.
So, Mr. Garlow, when you plugged the information into Kimberly Horn, they said it's 1,500 trips. What was the number that you came up with?
I had the comparison on the hourly peak hours, because that's what's used, as the traffic engineer said, to do the, and Martin pointed out the previous study was 291 for fewer apartments. This was 258 total from your developer. Kimberly Horn was 290. Those add up. And by the way, think about that a minute. That's 6 cars a minute. 6 cars a minute that hit that intersection.
So are we saying that it was greater than 1,500?
Oh, yes, it'll be more than that.
And so do you have a clue what that number would be?
I don't know. What I had Kimberly Horn do was compare the peak hour movements. But what it does, their traffic engineer pointed out that there are various manuals and so forth to be used. Folks, I used to represent Crescent, Hendrick Motorsports, and many other developers in this area. And I'm not saying that anybody did anything unethical, but when I'm being paid by a developer, I'm going to pick the manual that favors the developer. I would also point out to you that in the when we did the waterside development, the DOT had a representative there that night and said that they would only need a 60-foot right-of-way. We challenged that and said that no, sometimes there's going to be at least 7 lanes there. Now keep in mind, this was easy to do. You can do it on the back of a napkin. And the developer agreed, and we compromised with him on that development. And I'm proud of the fact that today, when they get ready to widen that road, that right-of-way is not occupied by buildings and utilities and things that will run the cost up. Those are things that the county can do to facilitate widening of roads. And this goes on and on. I mean, I don't mean to wind up too much. You can do the same thing on utilities.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, sir. Sue Walters. Sue Walters. Okay. Kristen and Bill Slanton. Okay. John Fleetus. All right.
Good evening. My name is John Forlitas. I live at 8020 Sandestin Lane. It's a Stanley address, but it's at Callens Ford Golf Club. I want to thank all the commissioners and the planning board for allowing us, residents of the community, to speak and give our opinions. I think it's helpful as a community to have dialogue. I've listened to a lot of comments about schools, about roads. I'm not going to continue to belabor that. But there was a comment that was made earlier about Carrington and a final CO, certificate of occupancy. I don't know what the timing is for that. Nobody's talked about that. Is that 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? But that's the time frame that they gave you to finalize that intersection at South Pilot Nub Road and 73. I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't speak for me, but I think probably a lot of these folks maybe. We're not saying no. We're not saying not yet. That's what we want. Just pause it. Just give it a break. Let's get the traffic resolved or improved at least before you go and start throwing more cars at it. I also want to remind everyone, tomorrow's voting day, and several of these commissioners are probably on the ballot. Use that. Thank you.
Dan Mercer? Eric Jenkins?
Good evening. My name is Eric Jenkins, 7972 Buena Vista Drive, Denver. Obviously, you can tell from my accent, I'm not local. I just moved here 2 years ago after visiting family for 17 years and said, this is where I should be. I come from Long Island, an island that didn't plan very well, an island that stuffed homes upon homes and little parcels for a park here or there, but they did have more roads. Down here, I looked at all the land and said, how can they not build roads? Obviously, they can't build roads. I've never met or known that a DOT can say intersections, roadways, and stuff like that are rated F and dead and no more improvements. When they say no more improvements, that's the sign. If the developer wants to pay for the roads, let them go to the county. They're proposing to backtrack and go and team up with Carrington and promises until those promises are put into money into a bond that if they break it, we get the money and we pay for the improvements ourselves, and Lincoln County starts learning how to pave roads. That's how we get out of this. We need the growth. We need the growth. We need the young people. We need the supposed teachers and the firefighters, the police officers, and all that. Of course we do. How about a 1,000-acre property with parks in the middle, with these apartments around them, homes surrounding them, and the schools within? There is no planning in Lincoln County anymore, and the planning department should start driving around and checking out the other counties that are starting to do this. I have two boys. One of them is now driving at 18 years old after we came from New York, and we came down here, and they have all these rules and regulations to go get your license, all these different levels and the process, much more so than New York. But it's amazing, New York, with the amount of traffic, it's more dangerous to drive down here. You cannot get onto 16 Highway in the morning up by St. James Church Road or anywhere else. I tell my son, drive south to 16 to 73 to hit 16 Highway. Now I got this problem entering. Where do they drive to? I don't know. And finally, the last thing, recently a commissioner posted that the lift stations are starting to fail with capacity. We're not investing in capacity because they said, let's start looking at light industrial so we don't put the strain onto the system. 364, 24 homes, apartments, townhouses, it doesn't matter. That's the strain. Until we start investing in the schools, in the infrastructure, we're going to have water breaks, sewer breaks, and we're just going to add more homes. And lastly, there is climate change. There is weather change. When we have a snowstorm, if you look at all these apartments around, and if you saw in Mooresville particularly, those apartment buildings collapse with trying to hold their garbage until pickup day. I don't know what you guys are going to do to address that down here in this new complex, but the other complexes in Denver are already stressing with that. Something that you guys need to look into. Thank you.
Sure.
Respected Commissioners, appreciate your service. My name is Jonathan Strike. I live on 8094 Webbs Road. I drive Pilot Knob Road on my way to see my daughter in Lowesville. We don't need traffic studies. I'm a little surprised, with all due respect to the Planning Commission, that they approved this. I can only imagine that perhaps you don't live in Denver. I'm not trying to be funny. It's just we don't need traffic studies. I'm concerned more about quality of life. And as has been mentioned earlier tonight, we're talking about more development in Denver. We have plenty of development in Denver. Not trying to be funny, Mr. Carpenter, but why don't you invite these nice Charlotte developers to Vail, and maybe you can incorporate Vail and enjoy the blessings of development out in Vail. I prefer the fresh air, and Mrs. Gales, why not just scale back the size of this project? Why does it have to be, 600 more cars, really? We got schools, we got trash, we got everything. We don't need 600 cars, 300 apartments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Elaine Huffman. Elaine Huffman.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me okay? Hi, I'm Ellen Huffman, 8133 Deepwater Lane. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to our opinions about all of these things. I know that we have discussed ad nauseum the traffic issue. So one thing I do want to point out to Bud, on the projected traffic site trip generation paperwork, it does say 1,500 daily trips, but it does not actually, the number provided was not actually a 2182 trips that are actually calculated based on just the 1,500 was just the apartments. 2182 was the total number of trips. So I just want to make sure that if the other gentleman that spoke said that it was going to be even higher than the 1,500 with the 2182, I'm sure it's going to be even higher than that. So on another note, I'm a huge fan of Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So while I don't want to talk about traffic, what I do want to talk about is the reputation of RK Investments and the other developments that they currently have in place that they mentioned this evening. In 2015, they opened residency at Brookline, and the residents there have, in their own words, have cited collection of trash on the property. I know that they have dumpsters there. It sounds like they are not working very well, which has created a massive pest problem. There is illegal drug use on the property. There is an extensive number of residents that are being towed despite having parking permits. So in addition to the 2182, now we have tow trucks going in and out and causing residents issues. And even though they say that, and I don't know this for fact, there was mention of ownership changes twice in those properties. I'm assuming they probably mean management issues, and so there was a change of management per se, but that does speak to how much consistency we can expect from a property like this. Now, that's their 10-year-old or 11-year-old property. In 2018, they have proximity at North Lake, both of these being North Lake properties. From residents there, they cited muggings, cars being broken into, multiple cars being stolen, 2 in one night,
Blood in the stairwells. The residents were actually not informed of the blood in the stairwells. And yet again, major pest control problems at those locations as well. They also cited multiple management changes, yet again, probably the actual people that work there because RK investments are still involved in both of those properties. There is repeated reports of no security cameras on property, or if there are, that the security cameras are not working. And I know that this is, a short-term conversation that we're having, but these are properties that are, 11 and 8 years old. So we can look into the future and see what they say they're going to do, are they going to do? Well, it sounds like maybe they're not already doing that right now. So that is my chief concern, and thank you so much for your time.
Alderman Cann? Alderman Cann, was it? Cameron Kane, yeah, that's just.
How we doing, everybody? Cameron Kane. I live at 2548 Perryview Lane. We've obviously talked about traffic enough. Beat a dead horse. It's going to get worse. Denver's going to grow. U.S. News World Reports say that the Lake Norman area is top 50 place in the United States to come to or to move to. It's been that case for the past 10 years. It's not going to change. If we don't get in front of the infrastructure, we don't have a people problem. We don't have a traffic problem. We have an infrastructure problem. My daughter is at East Lincoln Middle. She's got 30 kids in every single one of her classes. Her volleyball league just got canceled because there's nowhere to play. We're spending $10 million. I don't know what the estimate is on that new library. Looks about $10 million to me. No fields with the library. No place for kids to play. No place for anyone to do much of anything around here. The traffic's getting worse because we don't have the roads. I understand it's a DOT problem. If I've got a problem with my neighbor, they're doing something they should be doing, what am I going to do? I'm going to sue them. We need to sue the DOT, get them to do their job. We have the resources. My taxes have doubled since I've lived here. We should have plenty of money to spend some money on lawyers. They're expensive. They're not that expensive. And we need to sue the DOT. We need to get them to do their job, period. And we got to get the infrastructure in order to get the traffic to where it needs to be, because we need people here. We need low-cost housing. I can tell you one apartment complex is not going to fix the low-cost housing problem. The other apartment complex right there, they're paying over $2,000 a month for an apartment. It's ridiculous. We need lots of housing in order to get people, every store, every retail location around here. Everyone's got a help wanted sign. No one can get help. It's because we need people who can operate at $20 an hour and can afford a $1,500 apartment or something like that. We need more residences for people to live at, but we have to have the infrastructure before that happens. So let's go sue somebody. Thank you.
Okay, I want to allow the lady in the top left to ask the question before we got started. Yes, ma'am, if you want to come down and speak. This is our last speaker for tonight for this case.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the consideration. You allowed me to speak. My name is Mary Claire Hainsworth, Smith Stone, Denver. A couple things I want to say. We talked about the traffic report, and what I want to point out is that the formula that was followed is basically a basic standard used by North Carolina. It's a test, it's an equation, you plug in the numbers, but it doesn't mean it makes sense. The assessment was done on a specific location, a number of intersections within the development area. That does not reflect the true growth that we are expecting. It does not look at the potential for all the other housing developments that are already approved and already in play. There are residents who will be coming up the road, going into homes there that will be impacting 16 Business, 16 North Carolina, 73 Pilot Knob Road. That information is not contained in those studies because North Carolina standards do not require it. When you commissioned the East Lincoln Mobility Study back in 2019, which was published in 2020, the developer, or excuse me, the company that did that report took into consideration the growth for the approved subdivisions and for the submitted plans at that time. They took that into consideration for their future projections. From my count, that represents over 4,600 homes and apartments that were approved and were implemented. So we've had a large growth. That was the most comprehensive study as opposed to a single traffic report which doesn't look up the road and consider all the homes that have been approved and are in process. Additionally, there was nothing being said about Duke Energy. 73 is a prime emergency route used by Duke Energy. As a new resident here, I received a note from Duke Energy to pick up my potassium iodine from a library. I'm assuming that wasn't a party favor, and it wasn't a welcoming gift. It was a necessity for a resident living here. So we've got pills to take in case there's an emergency, but we can't get out of town. That is a failure for the county to not take into consideration the needs of this residents to get out of here. Our roads need to expand. I can't emphasize that enough. Everyone else has been saying the same thing. That is a huge concern, that we do not have the ability to move traffic out of there. In the area where this property is being proposed, there are 11 medical facilities, 8 child care centers, and 4 apartment complexes, all within a 5-minute drive of that location. While this type of complex may be needed, I would challenge that it is not needed in that location. It might be needed somewhere else in the county where it would be appropriate and it would not risk the lives of children in a daycare who got to get shuttled somehow out of the county if there's an emergency. Lastly, I'd like to say, in terms of the growth of the area, I looked at the county site for the county commissioners, the reports that you all followed. It shows that Lincoln County grew from 2015 to 2025, 24%. But your data also showed that East Lincoln grew 54% out of all of that. It's had a large increase over the entire county, and we need to have the infrastructure in place to support us moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, having no one else signed up to speak, I will close the public hearing for PD 2025-3, and we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess.
Coach, let's get it. Got any idea? Close up. Still be tomorrow. Cultures.
that'd be a whole lot easier. This sucks. I'm having to listen to the live feed and I'm 10 seconds. I can't read it. I can't read that. Can't read that. How you doing? I ain't been listening, but I think it's when I was just
All these folks who said they were coming, I know. No, Tom Lucas is here, but he's going to stay. But he'll obviously won't stay for your meeting. I
I can't hear crap. I'm listening. On the internet, it's about 6 seconds behind. Still, I can't hear. We should figure out how to tap into the ones that pay $1 zillion. This is close. This is very good. There's never been one, but it used to be better than this. Long time ago. Well, they used to have 14 speakers. It's because the speakers were echo works. Now, this is there. We got to do that. I expect to be in some city. I can be back sometime. At some point, yeah. That's so they're going to fix it. This is
To the board, right? Nothing happens tonight. Nothing happens tonight.
Yeah, we used to have here all the time. See it. Just move down here and go upstairs after it's over. Everything works. I don't hear good. This is it's like tomorrow won't be here till tomorrow. It's like, what time you only get up in the morning? 7, 8, 6. You got plenty of time. Oh, you got plenty of time. I have plenty of time. You go in and write, go in and change, shower, freshen up, might make a Yes, ma'am. If that'd be different, but I have a feeling there's more questions that are being asked. We've got agreements. There's a lot to this. So, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Where's the man that got the card? Where's the man that was at the card? Oh, what $10 million? It's $18 million. We spent, we got $55
5 acres out there, so we've got lots of park space out there too.
'74. All righty, Jeremiah. Where'd everybody go?
All right, our next case, zoning map amendment number 774. The applicant in this case is requesting the rezoning of a 0.98 acre parcel from transitional residential to general business. This property is located on the north side of Campground Road, about 700 feet east of Catawba Burris Road in the Catawba Springs Township. Surrounding properties are zoned general business and transitional residential, and land uses in this area include business, residential, and civic uses. This property is located within an area designated by the Lincoln County Land Use Plan as a suburban commercial center, suitable for a variety of commercial uses to serve the daily needs of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. This property is located in a regulated water supply watershed as part of the Catawba River, Lake Norman watershed, and so there are implications for impervious coverage on that. The applicant, you'll hear later tonight, has submitted a concurrent request for a special use permit to develop potentially develop a contractor's office on this property. The applicant owns the adjoining property and has indicated their intent to combine these two. And so as part of the water supply watershed standards, we'll be speaking to those a little bit more later about that's part of the reasoning why they're proposing to combine those parcels. But before they could do that, they would need to rezone this property for their intended use. You have examples of what's permitted in the current district as well as the proposed district. And you have staff's proposed statement of consistency and reasonableness in your packet. We are recommending approval of this request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeremiah? Okay, is the applicant in the room?
Yes.
Okay. If you would come up and state your name and any additional information.
Yep, Rob Anello, 6975 Campground Road, and then, as he mentioned, it's the adjacent property to this lot.
Anything else you'd like to add?
He basically summarized it for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any questions anyone has for the applicant? Okay, at this time, I'll open public comment. Having no one but the applicant signed up to speak, then I will declare the public comment closed. And we'll move on to the next one, ZMA 775.
The applicant in this case, Butternut Investments LLC, is requesting the rezoning of a 0.46 acre portion of a parcel from residential single family to industrial light. Included in this hearing packet is a survey that was submitted as part of the rezoning application. I believe that's page 8 of the packet, if the IT staff wouldn't mind navigating there. That'll really illustrate what's requested here. So the next case that we'll hear is the same property and the same applicant, but it's a reciprocal request. The applicant owns a parcel that is split by a zoning district boundary right now. They intend to move the property line and align it with the zoning district boundary, but my understanding, the applicant can speak to this when they testify, but my understanding is that the residentially zoned portion of this property where they intend to build a house, once they got into site design for the septic system, they realized that the area that was better suited for that septic field is on the portion that's zoned industrial right now. So you have the northern triangle on this survey, is proposed to be rezoned from residential to industrial. The southern portion there, where you see the septic field labeled, is proposed to be rezoned from industrial to residential. This property might look familiar. Within the last year and a half, there was rezoning proposals on this. The applicant is coming back now because of the septic field design related matter here. And so they're moving that zoning district boundary, and their intent is to align the property lines with it if these two requests are approved. The planning staff is recommending approval of this request. We do acknowledge that this request and the next one are not consistent with the adopted land use plan, but you have our proposed statement of consistency and reasonableness in your packet. And you also have the uses that are permitted under the current zoning district and the proposed zoning district. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Anyone have any questions for Jeremiah? Okay, is the applicant here? All right, is there anything you'd like to add?
Dean Fisher, Butternut Investments, 873 Coolwood Road. I'm here to answer any questions. This was just a simple site assessment that developed during the course of trying to site the house. We are moving a house that was located on Highway 16 to the rear portion residential area. And the only viable septic field after multiple attempts was up the hill into the IL district. So we are just proposing a swap for swap. The new proposed IL section that is currently residential single family is an undevelopable portion of the lot and needs to be retained for watershed reasons.
Okay, anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I will open the public hearing for this case. And the other person signed up is Melissa Fisher. Is there anything you'd like to add? Okay. Well, seeing no one else signed up to speak, then I will close the public hearing and we'll move on to ZMA 776.
This is that second case, that second request that I alluded to. The same applicant here, Butternut Investments LLC. This is a request to rezone 0.51 acres of the parcel from industrial light to residential single family. You have that same survey included in this packet to illustrate the reason for the request. This property is located on the east side of 16 Business, about 1,600 feet north of Webb's Road in the Catawba Springs Township. I didn't mention it in the last presentation, but the land uses in this area include a mixture of industrial, business, and residential uses. And like the last request, this one would not be consistent with the recommendations of the land use plan, but our staff is recommending approval of it, and you have that proposed statement in your packet. You have the list of permitted uses under the current and the proposed districts as well in your packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Anyone have any questions for Jeremiah? Okay.
Pretty odd-shaped piece of property.
Is there anything the applicant would like to add? Okay. All right, I'll open the public hearing for this case, and seeing no one else signed up to speak, then I will close the public hearing. And we'll move on to ZMA 777.
The applicant in this case, Troy LaHue, is requesting the rezoning of a 1.9 acre parcel from general business to residential suburban. This property is located at 7958 Unity Church Road. That's about 500 feet east of the intersection of Unity Church Road and NC 16 Business in Catawba Springs Township. There's a very small portion of this property that's located in the Eastern Lincoln Development District overlay, and this property is adjoined by properties on neighborhood business, general business, and industrial general. Land uses in this area include industrial, business, residential, and civic uses, but the property is located in an area designated by the land use plan as a suburban commercial center. This property is also located in a regulated water supply watershed that has some implications for maximum impervious coverage should this be developed for non-residential purposes. You might recall that last year this property was rezoned to general business. The applicant has indicated their desire to rezone it back to residential. There is an existing dwelling on the property. My understanding is the applicant resides in that dwelling and desires to continue to use it for that purpose until he sells the property. I'll allow him to speak to any additional details he wishes to provide with regards to that. We did provide the applicant with an extension on the discontinuance of that residential use after it was rezoned to general business. At the time, there was a federal government shutdown that had some effects on the scheduled closing. The extension has ran out, and so the applicant decided to apply to rezone this back to residential. And so our staff, unfortunately, is not able to recommend approval of this request due to the inconsistency with the land use plan and the fact that none of the adjoining parcels contain residential uses. and the closest residential suburban district is more than 1,200 feet away from this parcel. Effectively, we recognize that the approval to rezone it to general business last year brought the property into, I won't say compliance, but made it consistent with what the land use plan recommends. And so reverting back to residential, we just felt like we couldn't support that request. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Any questions for Jeremiah from the planning board or commissioners? Okay. The applicant here? All right. Anything you'd like to add?
Already stated the address, but the reason I would like to stay, like I said, it's my residence. And for me to go out and find another rental or home at this point, the expense of it would be doubling my expenses for every month. So if there's any way at all that we can switch it back, the property is up for sale. And as soon as I sell it, I'll move, but I really need to stay there, if at all possible. That's all I have.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Just a quick one. So if you sell the property, you want to go back to this zone, or do you want to keep it residential?
What's that?
If you sell the property, will you sell the property and request that it come back to industrial or stay residential?
No, it'll go back to some type of a general business or industrial. That's the problem. I had it sold, so I went through this process to get it switched to general business.
I remember.
But people backed out on me, so now it left me without anywhere to basically live.
So if you sell it, you're going to have to come back and do general business again.
Yeah, whatever. That's the issue. Whoever decides to buy it, they don't want to do anything until they find out if it's going to be zoned for what they want. And that's what I ran into.
Thank you, sir.
People backed out on me, so now I'm stuck.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, sir. All right, I will open the public hearing for this case. And seeing no one else signed up to speak, I will close the public hearing. And at this time, the planning board will now recess to the Vesuvius conference room on the 3rd floor. If you're interested to hear that team deliberate, you're more than welcome to follow them. We'll take a quick 2 or 3 minute break, and then we'll get back to the agenda. Y'all ready? All right, Jeremiah. We'll move into the next one. SUP 529.
All right, the applicant in this case is requesting a special use permit to build a contractor's office in the Eastern Lincoln Development District overlay. This request involves a 2.17 acre site located on the north side of Campground Road, about 700 feet east of Catawba Burris Road in Catawba Springs Township. This site is comprised of two separate parcels, one of which is already zoned general business, the other of which we heard earlier this evening a request to rezone it to general business. The applicant has indicated on their application their intent to combine these two parcels, and that's reflected on their site-specific vesting plan that they've submitted with their application, showing the intent to develop that second structure on the property with these two parcels being combined. They would be accessed by a common driveway, which is already in place for the existing business. The adjoining properties are zoned general business and transitional residential, and land uses in this area include a mixture of business, residential, and civic uses. The land use plan designates this area as a suburban commercial center suitable for a variety of uses, commercial uses, to serve the daily needs of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. This property is located within the WS4 protected area of the Catawba River Lake Norman water supply watershed. For non-residential developments, such as the one that's proposed here, that would limit the maximum impervious coverage to 24% if they use curb and gutter on the project, or 36% if they do not use curb and gutter on the project. The only exception to that would be if they come back with a high-density option permit in the form of a special use permit hearing with design stormwater control measures. That would be a separate hearing. But right now, their site plan demonstrates that they anticipate not exceeding that 36% impervious coverage. So they anticipate, at least at this time, trying to pursue that low-density option development and not require another public hearing. You have the applicant's proposed findings of fact in your packet, as well as their proposed site plan, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Anyone have any questions for Jeremiah? Okay. Applicant here still. All right. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Rob Anello, 6975 Campground Road. I've been asked or told that I need to affirm the proposed submittal, proposed finding of fact, which I did. All correctly.
You did my job for me. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay. I will now open the public hearing for SUP 529. And only seeing the applicant signed up to speak, I will close the public hearing for SUP 529. Anything additional anybody has? I'll entertain a motion to table SUP 529 until March the 16th meeting.
So moved.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Carpenter. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay. So that will be tabled until the 16th because there's another case going along with this one. All right. Now we'll move to SUP 530.
Last public hearing, zoning public hearing for the evening, special use permit number 530. Vogue Towers is the applicant in this case, and they're requesting a special use permit for a 180-foot monopole wireless telecommunications tower in the residential single-family district. The 54.9 acre parcel on which this tower is proposed to be located is on the north side of Highway 73 and the east side of North Little Egypt Road. This is the East Lincoln High School campus. The entire parcel is located in the residential single-family zoning district, and it's adjoined by property that's zoned residential single-family, transitional residential, and conditional zoning general business. Land uses in this area include a mixture of business, residential, and civic uses. I'm sorry, I believe that's a misprint, residential and civic uses. This property is located within an area designated by the land use plan as a special district for unique developments. School sites are an example of the type of development you would find in a special district, as well as other types of governmental and institutional facilities. You have the applicant's proposed findings of fact in your packet, as well as a site plan. They had an extensive packet with exhibits that they had submitted, and those are included in your public hearing packet. And I'll allow the applicant to certainly speak to any details they wish with regards to the site layout and some of those exhibits that were submitted with their proposed findings of fact. But with that, I'll answer any questions you have for me.
I'm assuming the school likes this idea because they'll generate finances, revenue for them, right? Mark?
Yeah,
I can't speak to the...
It's been going on, this negotiations on this were going on for some time. So the other issue was the lack of service, cell service in both East Lincoln High School and Catawba Springs there. And so this would potentially address those safety concerns.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Specifically to that point, and the applicant can speak to this in more detail, but my understanding is that in-building coverage is specifically a need in this area, and the intent of this tower is to provide that service.
If the applicant has anything to add?
Good evening. My name is Michael Sandifer, project manager for Vogue Towers. I apologize in advance. My asthma is not cooperating tonight. So I'll start here. Vogue Towers is proposing a new what we call a multi-provider wireless communications facility. That means is it's built for co-location. It's not necessarily a specific Verizon or a specific AT&T. It's built for all. The facility includes a 180-foot monopole within a fence-secure compound. Vogue Towers themselves is a multi-provider facility developer, essentially a property manager for wireless, if you can imagine shopping centers turned up. When you drive down the street and if you see towers that have several sets of antennas, that's what this is. In this case, Verizon Wireless is the co-applicant and the immediate need, but again, it will be built for everybody. Vogue Towers make space available on their towers for local first responders and EMA, well, when technically feasible. At no rent. And then once completed, this is an unmanned facility. So it's a locked, secure fence, but there's no in and out, there's no traffic. It is unmanned and operated remotely. A little bit of some numbers here just to show, just kind of so you have a better understanding of the need. Per the CTI 2025 survey, Americans used 132 trillion megabytes of data in 2024, shattering the 100 trillion megabyte record set in 2023. 2024 wireless traffic totaled over 2.2 trillion SMS messages, up 42 billion just from 2023. 2023 was a record high number that was more volume of data and traffic than all of 2010 through 2018 combined. Over 2.4 trillion minutes of talking via wireless connections, enough to watch every single movie and TV show in the Marvel Cinematic Universe more than 264 million times. It is mind-boggling the amount of growth that even wireless continues to have on the usage. We also have over 80% of all 911 calls now originate from a wireless device. You have 78.7% of adults now live in a wireless-only household, so almost 8 out of 10. It's higher among younger people, which is expected, 88% for that 30 to 34 range and 88.9% for the 25 to 29. There are 579 million connections in America, or approximately 1.7 per American. Some additional stats just from this recent Super Bowl. The combined usage was approximately 76 terabytes of wireless data. That was, the combined means Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, the three major carriers. That's enough to have 1.5 billion pages of text or 15 million photos, assuming a 5 megabyte photo. Ericsson, the equipment provider, projects the individual consumption to nearly double from a current 25 gigabyte per month to 49 gigabytes of data per month by 2031. So, why did I tell you all that? What it is addressing traffic. There's two things. One is capacity and one is just plain coverage, just getting a signal. What this is propagation maps on the left of current coverage and then existing structures on the right. Both of these were in the submittal packet in a larger format. If you were to overlay these maps, you can see that the existing structures, which shows a tower to the west, where you see that green spot, a tower to the northeast, where you see that green area, and then a tower east, southeast, where you see another tower there, that's American Tower. So what this shows is the ordinance is working. In this case, this coverage is Verizon Wireless. And so essentially their network is built around a vertical bridge site to the west, Crown Castle to the northeast, and American Tower over here. The problem with it is where you see green is good, that coverage right there where we're proposing is not meeting what we call in-building coverage. This is a twofold problem. Like I said, there's coverage and just having signal, and then the other problem is surrounding sites offloading the capacity and the strain of other sites in order to have a better user experience. There were letters submitted in our packet from Verizon's design folks, and part of what this included was explanation of why this is needed. Your ordinance has a requirement to require, if it's within 10,500 feet, that explanation of why another site is not working. So the picture of these two maps was essentially to show you that they're already on every site around here and need more in this specific area. There are a lot of factors. Distance, which in this case, that circle was a 1 mile circle. So distance, as well as existing terrain challenges for that coverage. And as in addition to what I presented there previously of just overall traffic growth. The next slide is essentially what we're proposing. Again, green is good. And what this does is take that previous map. This models the proposed site at this location and what the coverage would look like after that. Excuse me. A quick summary, we're requesting a special use permit. The site, the way it's located, complies with the ordinance. In addition to meeting the setbacks, this site is incorporating an engineered fall zone to reduce that area. That essentially is having engineers design the tower to crumple over on itself, similar to an umbrella shaft or a golf club shaft that gets a kink in it. Also, during the pre-application meeting, since this site's located back in the wooded area, it was discussed, instead of your 10-foot landscaping buffer, that only 5 feet around the top and sides, or north and east and west, was acceptable to keep as much existing wooded vegetation as possible, and then install a 10-foot landscaping buffer to the south, which is what that is showing there. Just a couple of vantage points here. We provided some photo simulations. You can see the red arrow showing where the proposed tower would be. Here's another one. And there's 4 or 5 vantage points in your packet if you wanted to see others. Those two were the most prominent. And the findings of fact, we submitted information as far as meeting the findings of fact for these criteria for the special use permit, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Just one small question. Do you wish to incorporate the totality of those findings of facts into your testimony?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. I will now open the public hearing for SUP 530. And seeing the applicant being the only one signed up to speak, I will close the public hearing for SUP 530. And I will entertain a motion to approve the findings of fact as submitted by the applicant.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Carpenter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and I will now entertain a motion to approve SUP 530.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Carpenter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, it is approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's the last of the zoning cases tonight, Jeremiah. We appreciate your time. And now we'll move on to number 5, presentation of annual audit. Ms. Watson.
Good evening, Commissioners. We're here to present the June 30th, 2025 audit finally. As we've told you previously, that was delayed due to the federal shutdown. The feds didn't get the 25 single audit compliance released, so we had to wait until that came out. The audit, you have the final report and a letter from from the auditors. The audit has been submitted to the LGC, and they have accepted that. I have with me tonight Christopher Turpin with Martin Stearns and Associates. He's going to provide you some information on the audit.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Turpin with Martin Stearns, and I'll be going over the 2025 audited financial statements for the county. Crystal, are there any slides that need to be pulled up? Bless you. Sorry, just one second. I have some slides that I think should be pulled up on the screen. Thank you. So just to go over a quick audit highlights for this audit, did issue an unmodified opinion, which is a clean audit opinion. And also just wanted to give a big thank you to Deanna, Crystal, and the rest of their staff for getting us items timely and accurately. This slide here just shows a quick summary of the general fund revenue. Revenues increased approximately by 14.7 million or 9% to 181 million for the year. And I will break down and discuss this further shortly. And this slide shows a summary of the expenditures for the general fund, which the expenditures increased approximately by 12.8 million or 9% to 151 million for the year. And again, I'll discuss these further here shortly. And this shows the summary of the unassigned fund balance for the general fund, decreasing by about 11%, almost 4 million for the year, which is due to increases in restricted by stabilization for state statutes and an increase in committed fund balance, which takes away from the unassigned fund balance. And this slide here just shows a quick breakdown pie chart of the revenues for the general fund, showing the top three, which are property taxes making up 50%, sales taxes making up 25%, and restricted intergovernmental revenues or grants making up 9%. And you can see off to the side what's making up the other revenues of 12%. This slide shows the property tax revenue for the year from 24 to 25, which increased by approximately 3.6 million or 4%, which is comparable to prior year numbers. This slide shows the local option sales tax revenue for the year, which increased by about 5.6 million or 14%, which is mainly due to an increase in the continued growth in retail sales. And this slide here shows the revenue for restricted intergovernmentals from 24 to 25, which increased roughly by about 3.1 million or 26%, which is mainly due to an increase in various reimbursements from several programs and different departments, ranging from 350,000 for FEMA to 1.5 million with DSS. This slide here shows a breakdown pie chart of what makes up the general fund expenditures, with the top three being public safety at 31%, education at 27%, human services at 15%, and then off to the side you can see what is the breakdown of the other expenditures at 27%. This slide shows the comparison of public safety expenditures between 24 and 25, increasing by about 4.2 million or 10%, which is mainly due to the Sheriff's Department having 6 new hires and an approved 12% raise in EMS increasing pay for retention of current employees. This slide here shows the education expenses from 24 to 25, increasing roughly by about 7.4 million or 22%, which is mainly due to an increase in the approved public school allocation. Slide here shows the human services expenses for 24 to 25, increasing roughly by 1.5 million or 7%, which is driven by an increase in salary and benefits from a 2.5% COLA that was approved in July of 24. So this just shows a quick income loss of change in net position for the enterprise funds. You can see the solid waste had a change in net position of roughly 1.7, 13.4 million for the water and sewer, and 2 million for the new airport fund. And then just wanted to quickly highlight the unrestricted net position numbers for the 3 enterprise funds, with solid waste being roughly 1 million, water and sewer at 41.3 million, and the airport at 2 million. And this is just showing a calculation for the quick ratio of the water and sewer fund. In 24, the quick ratio was calculated at 9.64, and in 2025, it was calculated to be 5.81. The LGC is normally only concerned if the quick ratio is less than 1, so there are no concerns here. Here we wanted to show a calculation from the water and sewer, which takes the unrestricted cash divided by the total expenses, excluding depreciation and debt service principal, just to basically show the bare minimum of expenses on hand at a time, and the LGC is only concerned if this number is less than 16%. And here, this just shows the operating net income for the water and sewer fund from 24 to 25. In 24, roughly 2.8 million, and in 2025, about 783,000. And the LGC would only be concerned if the operating net income was less than zero. And then also just to quickly summarize that the audit was submitted timely, mostly due to the delays that we had from the federal government. And then there were no findings or negative performance indicators identified. And this information, if you have any questions for me now, I'll do my best to answer. You feel free to reach out to me if anything comes up after tonight.
Do you have any questions, anything clarified or anything?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we'll move into public comments. This is where anyone's able to sign up to speak and speak to the board. If you're speaking as an individual, you get 3 minutes, and speaking as a group, you get 5, and the group has to be present and acknowledged. First, we have is Chris Harlan.
Good evening. I'm Chris Harlan. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here this evening, and we appreciate your time and willingness to listen, and I know it's really late. So I do have a slide presentation. There it is. Okay. So tonight I'm here to request assistance to get a noise and sound barrier constructed along Highway 73, particularly around the neighborhoods of Trilogy at Lake Norman, Killian's Point, which is where we reside, and the farm at Ingleside, which have been built in 15, 16, and 19 respectively. Sorry. The area has also experienced several other developments being built, which adds to and impacts the amount of traffic on Highway 73, including a new fire station, East Lincoln Number 3, which was built 1 mile away around 2022. This section of Highway 73 is the main access to East Lincoln High School, the intersection of Little Egypt Road, the major interchange at Highway 16, the Walmart and Lowe's shopping centers, as well as travel to and from Huntersville and Lincolnton. A map of the area is included for reference. With that being said, the noise levels from the constant car traffic, large trucks using their Jake brakes, if you've ever heard them, and the fire engines responding to calls with sirens and lights make it unbearable to be outside at any given time. A normal conversation is impossible, and it's detrimental to the quality of life, which we've seemed to talk about a lot tonight. The Lincoln Noise County Ordinance states that it prohibits any loud, raucous, and disturbing noise, which term shall mean any sound which, because of its volume level, duration, and character, a noise disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, health, peace, or safety of reasonable persons of ordinary sensibilities. In addition, NCDOT considers 66 or more decibels a trigger for noise reduction measures. This is certainly the case here and will only continue to get worse as more development is planned, which we've been learning about tonight, and traffic increases on the roadway. This will continue to negatively impact the community and the quality of life. We invite any or all of you to experience what is a daily occurrence for all concerned. Any assistance that you could provide for making this a top priority and moving forward on this would be greatly appreciated. We look forward to hearing from you. And that's one topic we didn't hit on with the development was the noise. It's all traffic generated, so I think what we're presenting here ties in nicely with all of the other concerns. So Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have signed up to speak, Gunny Hull.
County Commissioners, Gunny Hoyle, 319 North Poplar Street, Lincoln, North Carolina. Just want you to propose something to you that there's no ideas or no structure for our country. See, that's what our founding fathers had. They had nothing to go by. So, but the main principle that they all had was freedom. There's a saying from President Ronald Reagan, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. The whole situation, some of what's going on tonight, some of the things that's going on in our nation today is because we are not thinking ahead. To even force out the gentleman out of his home, if that's what it comes out to be, is not freedom. And so with all that's going on, like I said, in our nation and even our world, we need to look at what's going on before it comes here. That's being proactive instead of being reactive, and some of them it's done too late. As I addressed before a little bit before about the Constitution, we need to understand what it said, but you cannot unless you study it. And you got to look up the words, like I said, or invite you to look at Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary for a more complete understanding. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to miss the whole idea and the premises of it. Some that do not understand the Constitution, they think that anyone can come in and do anything that they want, which that's contrary to the Constitution. We're having a big problem in our nation with illegals that we allowed because we could just say Democrats, but really the Republicans failed to do anything. And I've had firsthand asking of some different individuals, and they confirm that we have illegals in our county, and also we have criminals or gangs that's in our county as well. So we're not addressing those, and but we think everyone is protected by our Constitution. And it is a proven fact that, number one, Muslims or Islam cannot go by the Constitution. And we're seeing that, and we'll see it even more violently as we proceed. But if we don't protect Lincoln County, we're going to be in a very serious problem. So the Constitution and the laws of the United States are made to be in pursuant thereof. And I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to skim it. Because, you see, one thing it talks about religion. And without you knowing what religion they was talking about, then you're going to think everybody has that freedom. So anyway, I'm asking you again to study those things before it comes home to us.
Thank you. All right, having no one else signed up to speak, I will close the public comments. And is there any other business to come before this board at this time? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner Cecina. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?